Hello friends, welcome to the Singleton Design Pattern in C++ video tutorial. So we'll start now. These are the contents, the definition, requirements, advantages of Singleton Design Pattern and the uses of the Singleton Design Pattern, and I will show you some UML diagram of the same and how to create the Singleton Design Pattern and some example in C++. So let's get going. So what's the definition? Define a class that has only one instance and provide a global point of access that instance. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward. You will be defining a class which will be having only one instance of that class itself. So basically you are imposing the restriction that this particular object need to be only existing, only should be the single existence should be there in the whole program. So that's what we want to achieve with this Singleton design pattern. So we'll see how it will be done. So basically what is the requirements to build this Singleton design pattern? Okay, to implement this or to have this singleton in your program. So first is one and only one instance. Yeah, that is quite obvious. We want only one instance in our whole program. So we will implement this. And global access. What this means, global access? Global access means wherever you want, you can access that particular object in your program. So we can go for the Singleton design pattern in that case. And no ownership. That means no one would be the owner of that object. That object would be freely floating here and there, and anyone want that object, they will just use it, and yeah, that's it. Someone want that object, they will just simply use that object. And last is lazy initialization. Lazy initialization is a point which I will explain when I will explain you the code. Okay, so now advantages. So first advantage is save memory. So it will save memory obviously, because let's say you want one object, you want some object which you don't want to create again and again. You just want that object, and it's okay to use that object with the same value wherever you want to use that object. So no need to create that object again and again and use that object. So because the object creation also takes time if it is a big enough object, so that also take time. So we save time and memory both. And the second point is single access point. You can see that when you would have created logger in your program, like logger, if you are an experienced guy, you would understand what I'm telling. If you are fresher, then I will explain what happens if you are in your program and it is continuously running, and at some stage you want to output something like I am in this phase, or this is the value of this current scenario and all that. So you create logger class. Okay, so you log all those information and you log your errors also in that. So logger is created as a singleton. This is the actual implementation. So we create logger with singleton classes. And database connection. Yeah, this is pretty obvious that you want only one connection to the database so that it won't end up corrupting. Let's say you are also accessing the data, and someone else also accessing the same database connection, then it might end up corrupting the data. Okay, so in that case we want only single access to that data. And the third is flexibility. Packaging that variable inside class give you flexibility to do all sort of things with that particular variable which you didn't go and make as a global variable. Instead you create as singleton variable. Okay, so actually singleton variable is the replacement for global variables. Okay, so we'll go ahead now. What are the uses of this singleton design pattern? So multi-threaded environment is the best, you can say, and the example is thread pool. If you don't know what thread pool is, I'll explain what this thread pool is. Let's say you are having a thread pool. You can just think of like there are 4 thread which is there in the pool. So whenever someone want, they can just get that one of thread, and they can use that thread, and once their work is completed they will return the thread. It's like that. Okay, so there are 4 threads. Mainly we keep 4, 5. I mean, it depends on your core, how many cores are there, because if the thread number increases more than core, then it becomes problem for the system. So we generally keep 4 threads. So that's what the thread pool is. Okay, so you will be taking from the thread pool, you will be taking the threads from the thread pool, and once you are done with the work with that thread pool, you will return that thread to the thread pool. Okay, so it's the simple idea, but that whole thread pool is implemented with Singleton Design Pattern, because let's say as I told that, okay, you need to have only 4 thread running with that process, because you have limited core. So let's say somebody came and he created another thread pool object, which he is not allowed, because then the thread will become 4 plus 4 8, and another person came, he created another thread pool, then it will be 12. So we don't want that to happen, so we will create thread pool as a singleton. So I think you got it. If you didn't got, please comment, I'll explain. Okay, and I might give you some links so that you can understand it more better. And second point is database application. Database application, you can think of like you are giving your username and password, like logging. Okay, so it is stored in some session, so whenever you are opening another tab and giving the same address, I mean the web address, it will open your page only. So like Facebook you are opening, or Gmail account you are opening, so it will be opening the same user. So from where it is getting the information, it is singleton, so that's why we are getting that information. So that's how we implement that. And configuration setting, like game setting and application settings. So you can think of some game setting. Say today you are playing some game, and you want to change some setting, like brightness is not good and width is not proper or height is not proper, then you will go and change the setting variable is also a singleton variable. Okay, you can just think of like, you won't be going and changing different settings all the places. Okay, one whole setting variable would be there. In that, all those parameters would be there, like I mean the height and the width and the brightness and all that. There is no point of creating those objects 2-3 times or several times. You need only one time, because you are playing that game and that is one screen. I don't know. So I think you got the point. So an application setting, like you are using settings in your app, so you want to change that setting, you will go to the setting and you will change it. So those settings, whatever the setting object is there, that object is also maintained as a singleton object. Okay, so I think you got the point here. So we'll move forward now. And yes guys, if you want to ask anything or say, okay, this is not the good point, you could have said this or that, so you're free to comment, no problem. Now we're at UML diagram. You can see here, this is our client, this is just simple main function, this is our whole application. Okay, so this singleton class will be used by this whole application. So from main or whatever from our client code, we'll just call the get instance function. We'll call this function, and this is the function. This function will return the singleton pointer. Okay, what is the singleton pointer? This is nothing but the singleton types pointer, which is static, and this minus shows that it is a private member of the class. Okay, and here I have shown some constructor which I kept private. I mean, this minus shows this is the private, this is also private, and this plus shows that okay, this is public. You can call it from anywhere, and as it is static, you don't need any object to call this function. Okay, so this is the basic idea what implementing in our code. So I think we're done. I mean, yeah, we'll go and look at the code, but before that I think one slide is there. Yeah, how to create that. So I'll explain that. There is only a few things, like to create a singleton class we must have this static member. So this is our static member here. Okay, this is the actual object which we will be using throughout our application. Okay, So this should be there. And private constructor, why we need private constructor? Just because our user won't end up creating several different objects of the same class. We don't want that behavior particularly. That's why we are implementing this singleton class. Okay, I mean the class which is having the singleton properties. Okay, so in that for that purpose only we are keeping all these constructor as private, so it cannot be created. I mean the object cannot be created, and only we are giving one public interface which will get you the object. Okay, and the third point is static function. Yeah, obviously I told, okay, we'll be having this function which will return you the object. That's it. So now let's go to code and understand how it is working. So let's go to code now. Yeah, so let's start coding now. String, what else, using namespace standard, and then class name. What example I should take? Okay, I'll be taking some game setting, what I explained before, no? So game setting, here we go. So the first of all we need one static member function, so we'll create that static game settings pointer, which we will call instance. Okay, and what kind of settings attribute we want to set, like brightness, height, and width. So I'll take a simple example like brightness and width and height. So this is our private data members. Now we want some public interface to deal. Okay, so first of all we'll create that static function which will return this game setting pointer. So the name would be get instance. Okay, so as I told, I will be telling you the lazy initialization, so this is where it comes handy. And yeah, so first I'll check whether this instance is already there or not. If it is not there, then I will create it. So instance is equal to new game setting, and I will return this instance. Okay, so as simple as that. Now some getters and setters for this brightness, width, and height. So let's go. We'll create some set width. Okay, I won't do this integer width. We have set the width, same for set height also. Okay, so yeah, we are done with the height now. Now third is set brightness. So brightness should be this brightness. So till now we set the variables. Now getters. So get width would just return the width. Okay, integer get height will just return the height now. Okay, and last one get brightness, so we'll return brightness. So I think we are all done. Okay, and now our main function here, main return 0. And yes, I forgot something. If we are declaring any member as a static, then we need to define it outside that class. So sorry, so that it can get the value, I mean the memory. So we need to define it like this: outside the class instance. There we go. So this is our variable, I mean this is our member function, which is in this one, I mean this game setting class, and its type is game setting pointer. So we are done with this. Now we'll get this working. So let me check everything is okay. We are done with this width and height. Yeah, we need constructor also. So we'll create one constructor. Game setting default, it would be a default constructor, and let's give some default values as well. So width, let's say 786, and height, let's say, I don't know, 13, some setting is there, 1300. Let's give it this only. And brightness, how much brightness you want by default? Let's give it 75%. So we are done here. So get instance, we return this one instance, a new, everything is good. Getters and setters are there, and now width, height, yeah, so everything looks good here. Now we'll get this working. So as you can see, I'm going to call that function get instance function, which would return something, which would return the basically that global pointer, what is the singleton object actually. So what we can do here is, oh my god, I have not created printf function or to display the values. Yeah, that's what missing here. So I will do that also. Display settings, right? So cout, so brightness, and cout height, cout width, so don't tell me if I have given this end line 2 times here, so just to make it look little good. Okay, so here we go, we are done. Now as here we can see, this is the first time instantiation, so this will, I mean this get instance will be called here, and as instance would be null in the beginning, so I didn't define it null here, or you can say null in the beginning, so nothing is pointing in that. So now we'll create the game setting, we'll put it into this, and we'll return it. So this is the object what we are looking for, this is the whole thing. Okay, so and we are creating this object, so default values I have set here. You can change with these getters and setters. We'll check these functions in no time. So now let's start. So I will just call display settings, and let's go and compile it. Yeah, it compiled. So you can see that okay, brightness is 75, height is 1300 and 786 is the width. So actually the main funda is, as you can see that okay, you got this object here, okay, with the help of this static function. Okay, so now you are moving anywhere in this whole program. Let's say I'll create one function, okay, some function, let's say, and you went to that function. So let's create that function, some function here, some function, and you are in here. Let's say you are again calling this the same thing, okay, like you again went and you got that instance here, and you are again displaying the same thing. So how it would look like, let's go and check that. I compiled it, compiled successfully. Yeah, see, it is having the same values here, okay, as you can see. So yeah, this is what it is, guys. This is why we use this Singleton Design Pattern. Wherever we go, whenever we want, we'll get always the same instance all the time. Okay, so let's check those APIs what I have created. Set what will change the brightness, will make it 100, and then we are going and calling this function here, so it must be printing 100. So first this should be printing 75 and this function should be printing 100. So let's go and check that. As this is printing 75 and this is printing 100, so this is working. So it's pretty obvious that we are accessing the same object again and again, and this is what we wanted. We always want same single object to be shared all the places wherever we go in our program, and this is what we have achieved here. So, and why I have taken this game setting example, because whenever we play some game, that time we'll be keeping settings, and that setting will be same for a whole game. Like whenever you will play, you will be having that setting only. So you cannot have different settings. Actually you can have different settings, but the global setting variables would be single only. So there could be setting 1 or setting 2 or setting 3. So setting 1 you can keep for daytime game playing, and setting 2 you can keep for a nighttime game playing, because daytime you need little more brightness and nighttime you don't want that. So in that case you can keep different settings, and you will apply those settings. But the main idea is the base setting where these all settings are going to be applied, that variable has to be single only. Okay, then only the system will go and take those values only. Okay, so that variable has to be single. So that we have implemented here. Okay, so I'll upload this code on GitHub, so don't worry, and I'll give you the link. Okay, yeah. So thanks for watching my video, Singleton Design Pattern in C++. And if you like the video, please like it and subscribe, so that if I'll upload any other video, I will definitely upload some other videos. I mean I'm going to complete this whole series of design pattern. It's around 26-27. So if you want to get updated, please subscribe, so you'll get the notification for that. So bye bye.